joining. I'll just quickly introduce myself and pass it off to our moderator, and we'll go ahead and get started. The session is being recorded, as you will have seen, so anything you miss, you'll be able to catch up on later. My name is Beth Castro. I'm Executive Director of World Law Group, and this session is part of our larger WLG at-large annual virtual conference, which aims to have content that can apply to all lawyers and professionals from all of our member firms. And this session in particular, we hope will be really interesting to people at all levels in their legal practice. There's a lot of practical tips, so may not be so much in the way of, things that are, what am I trying to say? I think it's more of, we were just having a conversation, things that you wouldn't have thought of. So they're not difficult concepts, but just hearing them and having very specific things that you can take home and try in your next networking events. That's really our goal here. So our moderator is Nancy Shipp of Davies in Montreal. And as I pass it to her, I'll let you know that on Friday, we will be sending to everyone that registered for any of our at-large sessions a recap that will include all of the sessions from this week and have brief highlights from each, the relevant recordings, and any other documentation. And with that, Nancy, you can take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Beth. And welcome, everybody. We're really excited to have you all with us this morning. I understand that there were over 100 people registered and people still joining. So this is going to be a great session, and there will be opportunity for you to ask questions by putting them in the chat. And we do hope to be able to get to those, and we encourage you to do so that we can make this a little bit more interactive. For those attending their first World Law Group event, welcome. And for those who have been participating for a while, welcome back. As Beth said, my name is Nancy Shipp. I'm the Chief Legal Talent and Culture Officer at Davies in Montreal, Canada. And I will be moderating today's session on how to get the most out of networking events. The timing of this session and the development of this session really comes as we've all returned to in-person events after the past 2 years. And many of us have been having conversations within our organizations around how to re-emerge and how do we succeed in these types of relationship building experiences. And not, we're not only talking about large conferences, but also smaller events as well. We're going to hopefully share with you our best tips and suggestions and learn from each other. And I want to really take the opportunity right now to introduce our panelists. So I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to introduce themselves, their name, their firm, their role, and maybe one little quick story about a networking success that they want to share. So Alex, we'll start with you.
I also want to welcome and thank everyone for attending the session. As Nancy said, my name is Alex Gomez, and I'm a partner with Hunt and Andrews Curley. We are the Texas law firm representative for the World Law Group. I help companies when they have commercial disputes in courts and arbitration proceedings across the U.S. Ideally, I am helping them beforehand to maximize the likelihood of success and/or avoid the contested proceedings. That's one elevator pitch I have. The other one is I am a trial lawyer, and when companies need a killer, they get me involved since I've gotten the death penalty against the other side before. So depending on the situation, I introduce myself a couple different ways. My networking story is, I think networking and really business development is a team effort, and you never know where your success is going to come from. And one of my best clients that I've represented for over 15 years came as a result of my wife having recognized the importance of business development. At a school event, she met another mom and they hit it off. And my wife learned that the other mom's husband was the head of litigation at a large corporation. So my wife made it a point for the four of us to go out. Long story short, we all became very good friends, and he sends me most of his litigation work today. So networking truly is a team effort, and not only get yourself involved, but get those that are close to you to work on your behalf too.
or marry right, Alex.
And I'll turn it over to.
And we're going to turn it over to Moira.
Okay, my name is Moira Hargett Kane. I'm a partner of institutional relations at Tosini Freire in Brazil. Formerly, I used to do corporate M&A. Networking success story. I don't know if it's a success story, but this is a little bit about how I guide the networking I do nowadays. When I was a student, a trainee at a law firm, I won't say when that was, but it was far away from here. I had just closed a deal with the partners, the senior partners of the firm. I was the youngest in the group. And then we decided to go out for dinner to celebrate. And the CEO of the bank, it was an American bank, came to Brazil for this celebration. There were more than like 30 people at the dinner. And we decided to go to a Japanese restaurant. And I used to wear long skirts and very heavy boots at that time. And to wear the heavy boots, I used to put white socks, like soccer socks. And so we had to take off our shoes. And all of a sudden, I had to take off my boots, with those horrible white socks under my black clothes at that time. And the CEO of this company saw that I was in this very embarrassing situation, and he looked at me, he laughed, he helped me take off my boots, and he sat me right beside him. It was a sit-at dinner, and a lot of VIPs, the owner of the Brazilian bank here, and he said, "No, I want her to sit beside me." And lesson learned today, I always champion, the young people, the people that are lost in networking events. I think this is a very important thing, to do. And I think we have an important role more senior people to do this type of thing. And I'll never forget that. And that this guides the way I work.
Thank you. And our last panelist is Johan. I think you're on mute, Johan.
You're mute.
So there we go. We had to have one. Hi, everyone. My name is Johan Sov. I'm a senior director for business development at Davies, based out of Montreal. So my role is to oversee business development initiatives at the firm on a firm-wide basis. So it includes practice development, client teams, management referral, and leveraging any sponsorships or events opportunities. I've been in that marketing, business development, communications industry of professional business, professional services for over 20 years. But 2+1 years at Davies. I say 2+1, given 2 were remote, and finally we get to live fully since for a year now. So I guess the story I want to share, the success story of networking, was early on in my career. It was in accounting. This young partner comes up to me and says, I've been counting my whole life, and now I need to do some business development and grow my network. How do I do that? And I'm still to this day really proud of what we accomplished together, which was to develop a plan based on his strengths, his expertise, his current clients and experiences, but had targeted 3 networks and eventually all around information technology. And by doing so, we had one network that was pure SMEs based out of Quebec in information technology. Another network was for angel investors and venture capital and PE. And the third was an incubator who helps startup businesses mainly focused on technology. And the evolution of 3 years of just building a strategy around focused networks, repetition, some overlap, obviously, but getting to know people and first year, just attending anything you can and learning more about the industry and the ecosystem. Year 2, he started to get involved in some committees. Tried to write an article here in the newsletter, play a role in some of the sessions. And by 3rd year, he was invited to be at high-level committees, bringing people from the firm to the events and being the one introducing people to the network rather than being the newbie on the block. And he did that also by getting to know all the levels of those networks. So yes, the members themselves, but also the board of directors, the permanency, the staff of those networks, the sponsors. So really infiltrating the ecosystem to know what he's getting into at every event. And if you need to remember something about what I just said is, focus, strategy, and repetition.
Thank you, Johan. So we're really looking forward to hearing from all 3 of you over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. You all come to this from very different perspectives and you have a lot to share. We're going to get right into it. In preparing for today, we really realized that there are 3 stages or 3 separate stages in a networking relationship or a networking event that we need to prepare for ahead of time, and preparation is the key. You're going to hear a lot about that today. One of our panelists summed it up most elegantly as creating your network, activating it, and then maintaining it. We're going to start with that pre-event prep, and I'm going to turn it over to Alex to talk about things that you do or your tips on getting ready for a networking event.
Thank you, Nancy. So you want to do your homework. Typically, before you attend an event, you should get should be provided a list of attendees. And so you want to use your firm resources by providing that list of attendees to your firm business development and or marketing team. Your firm should have a CRM system, which is a client or customer relationship management system. And they should be able to tell you which attendees are firm clients. And then you should go talk to the lead partner whose client that is to explore opportunities, talking points, if you're able to, if you touch base with that that client attendee at the networking event. The BD marketing team should also be able to tell you if any of the attendees are contacts of any of the lawyers within your law firm, but not clients. So you would want to follow up with those lawyers at your firm whose contacts will be attending the event to explore strategies, best ways to try to develop business from that contact. How far in advance you need to provide the list to the marketing BD team? The reality is it's a software system, so they can run that pretty quick and get you that information. The bigger issue is you need more time to eventually communicate and set up a meeting or contact the partners and your colleagues that have those contacts. So normally they say like 2 weeks out from the event. And if you don't have contacts or clients attending the event, you want to identify a few targets or hit lists of those that you would like to meet. And so the BD marketing team can also research the corporation's tender. And that can be done through Monitor Suite, which is something Thomson Reuters provides. And for example, for me, I'd be most interested, I guess, in a litigation profile of the corporation. And that would show, I'd run a report, it would show all the litigation that company has across the United States, whether federal or state, and then all the law firms that represent them. That'd be the same for deal activity. So the deals are doing the Monitor Suite, and your BD team could run a report on a company with respect to M&A activity, or there's an IP component and the law firms that they're represented by. This same type of report would also get you the most recent news related to these companies, and also you could look at their SEC annual reports and bring information from that. But with people you don't know, you still probably want to have a strategy. What's the best strategy? If you meet, when you target to meet them, start off maybe social, try to connect with them on a social level, but then be aware of their needs. And so you'll be ready to address that if the opportunity arises when you do meet them at the networking event. One of the most important things I think that you can do when you go to a networking event is, you're not always selling yourself, you're selling the firm and your partners. So you really want to be informed about what's new with respect to your law firm. So, firm innovations, client wins, recent project wins, currently the interesting projects that you're working on or that others are working on within your firm, and what's new on the horizon. All these are cross-selling opportunities for other firm practice groups and or lawyers within the firm. If you're going with a group to a network event, you should meet beforehand, so each of you don't have the same targets. So you could split those up. And I found that there's 3 messages that are typically conveyed during a networking event, and it depends on the situation. But the first one is, you meet someone for the first time, and so pretty quickly the first question is, what do you do? And so your response is your quick pitch, your elevator pitch, what I kind of mentioned before at the introduction. The second situation is they show some interest, and so why you, or tell me more. And so there you need to have a more meaningful response as to with respect to like a value proposition. Why are you an expert in that field? Why is your firm best positioned in that field to provide most value to companies? And then the third situation is when you already know someone, and they're just going to ask you, what's new, what's been going on. And so then that's where your homework on, the what's new research that you did within your firm will come into play. You want to have the right mindset going into an event. All events are networking events, whether industry, trade, organizations, client events, pro bono, charitable, etc. The younger and less experienced you are, the more likely you won't be seen as an expert. That's okay. Develop relationships now that will pay off years down the road. And you still have an opportunity to cross-sell your firm and the more senior attorneys. Keep in mind that the purpose of attending the event is to create opportunities for you, but also at times you can create opportunities for the clients by introducing them to your network, and people appreciate that, obviously, and that will come back around to hopefully come back around and help you in the future. You're there to meet people, and you got to get out of your comfort base, and you're there to expand your network, and you got to realize it may not be fruitful today, but people change jobs, their situations change, so you got to have play the long game in a sense, but you got to have a mindset before you get there that you're committed to sort of work in the room, and you're going to be outgoing, and then you're there to just at an event you're there sometimes just to learn, and that's okay, and you may not be a leader in that area right now, but as you learn, you can eventually become a speaker. One of the things you really want to do before you get to an event is identify a champion before the event, someone that will help you meet other people at the event. And I found that can be a colleague from another law firm that you have a good relationship with. Those attorneys sometimes can help you meet other people and other prospective clients. It can be someone within your law firm, whether a partner or or another colleague. I've also found the best champion can also be an existing client that's at a networking event. And when they're introducing you to other prospective clients, that to me is the best champion. And with that, I think I've gone long enough, and I'll turn
Yeah.
it
I'm gonna, before we turn it over to Moira to talk a bit about the elevator pitch, which you've mentioned, I'm wondering if any of our panelists want to talk. You mentioned, you know, there are lots of different types of networking opportunities. Can't go to all of them. Do any of you have an idea to share in terms of how do you target which events you will attend?
Well, it goes back a little bit to the story I was mentioning. You will obviously throughout your career have many different opportunities, but if you're starting out, it's really you know, about having that bit of focused strategy and know what you want to be known for. Alex alluded to your value proposition. Within that, or your elevator pitch, but within that should carry, you know, the industry, for example, or industries in which you want to be recognized in, the type of work, or the type of expertise, your key strengths. So all of that meshes together, and should theoretically allow you to be a bit more targeted in the events or the networking that you choose to do. Obviously, you know, it's wider or bigger space when you're starting out, and eventually you get to pick and choose and you know, be a bit more selective. I will say though, when I see younger people in the office that are starting to develop their network, I often tell them, always raise your hands and seize the opportunity. Like I said, so it's a bit contradictory to what I just said, but you know, seize the opportunity, put yourself out there. It's super important. And you know, after a while, it's going to start to structure and make sense.
Great. Thank you. Moira, could you talk to us a bit about those elevator pitches and how you introduce yourself in an event, how you prepare for that?
Yes, I just wanted to compliment what Johan said. I think strategy is key, absolutely key. Choosing the event, what event you're going to participate in, and what event you're going to sponsor, etc. I think an important thing you must bear in mind, and this is more on a firm level than on a personal level, is if you choose to go to a very top event, don't buy the last table of the event because it's cheaper. I mean, if you're going to the top event, go to the top of the top event. I mean, it's if you want to network with the top, go to the top. So the people have to really have a strategy for events. Going to events is not just going to events, you know, and you have to think about it and really have a clear strategy and know how to cut off also events that are not important and will keep you out of your hourly billing or your value billing at the firm. So there are certain events you really don't have to go to, and there are other events that you really have to be there, whether it's an industry event, an institutional event, a charitable event, whatever. So this is one issue that I wanted to cover. Regards to pitching, you have to know what you're going to say. You have to know who you are, what you do, what is your role at the firm, what you're known for, what you're going to say to the people when you meet them. I usually have a more institutional role at the firm, so I like to sort of like more introduce my firm and my partners. I don't like to introduce myself. That's something that really is hard for me, and I like to be a champion for others. So, but obviously I have a lot of stories on my personal life, on my family life, on my hobbies. I always carry stories on networking, on the firm, on, you know, fun stuff, and I think it's you have to have all those with you all together and know which one to use at the point you're using. I like to do a lot of networking in women events. I like to participate a lot in women events, and I like to help a lot women in the women events. So there's certain things that I like to do to help others. Like, you know, if you see somebody alone, bring them over, ask them what you're doing, do you need any help, that type of stuff. I'm sort of like passionate about doing this kind of work. So maybe that's something that makes me unique. I don't know. So you asked me before the panel what makes me unique. Maybe that's a little bit of trying to help others climb a ladder. That's something that I think makes me unique. I don't know. And makes me successful, because it's all about, I think, giving. So if you help others, you get something in return. So if you tell them a genuine story of all the hard things you went through, getting out of a comfort zone, everything, I think that's, doing networking is not easy for anybody. You just have to go out and do it and practice it. I think it's just very, very simple. And grab somebody to help you out. I mean, there's talk about yourself, talk about your dog, talk about your child, talk about your firm, talk about anything you want to talk about. People will hear you, and if they don't, just walk over and go to another go grab a coffee. I think opportunities are there. People are there to network, and everybody has a story. Especially in international firms like ours, we have a lot to share. So everybody has different cultures, different stories, different backgrounds. So I think this is a very rich environment for networking, and I value this a lot. So I wouldn't be able to give one example. I think it's a bunch of things that get together and help. I like a lot to, and this is maybe on the do's and don'ts and maybe my tips at the end, but I think it's very important when you introduce somebody, especially a younger lawyer at your firm or whatever, that is, like Alex said, that when you go in threes, to give a brief explanation and empower that person in front of the others. Let's say, well, this is Nancy, and Nancy is a fantastic lawyer. She's done so much pro bono work for such and such charity, or she's, she's a rising star, or, I think this is a very, very important thing, to empower people when you introduce them in a networking event. I think this is the best you can do. You don't have to talk about yourself, but you can empower a third party, a third person, even if it's another person from another firm, from a competitor. I don't care. You always should give. I think give, you receive.
Thank you. That's excellent advice. So now we've prepared, we've identified our targets, we know what we're going to say. We've made choices as to what events we're going to attend, and we potentially have a team around us, but we need to change gears now to think a little bit about how to make it a success once you're actually there. And so, Johan, we're going to look to you to guide us a little bit on your thoughts on how to have a successful networking event experience.
Thanks. Well, I'll try to be brief because there are so many different tips that we can talk about. Well, I'll start with the most obvious. We were talking about it right before coming online. Know the dress codes. You have very little time to make a first impression. And you want to dress appropriately. I'll give the example of myself attending a golf tournament recently, and I did not know that everyone was going to be so casual, and I was just sweating in my pants and my shirt, and everyone was in a t-shirt and polo, and I would have loved to be as comfortable as everyone. But you don't want to stand out too much. Some will be bold and choose to. And should live up to it, but you need to dress appropriately depending on the event. We're consultants, we're professionals. You go to a client's event in a manufacturing or IT industry. Probably the suit is not the best idea because you're going to be perceived as the professional with his briefcase and the salesperson. We were talking about your elevator pitch. I tend to recommend to keep it very.
Johan, Can I just add to your comment about the dress code? I usually tell the women not to go in black. So to the events, because in black, you're full of penguins at events. You know, everybody's dressed in black. All the men are dressed in black. So I usually tell women to dress with any color except black so they can stand out and they're easy to find. And they look good when they're not in black. And women tend to go in black because it's easy to put in the luggage or whatever. And also another thing that is important is when you mentioned the culture or the dress code, take a look at the culture of the countries in regarding colors. That's something very important too. But I didn't want to interrupt you more. I just wanted to pitch in to add up to your comments.
For sure, thank you very much. And yeah, that's good tips. And you need to be comfortable. You know, in everything that I think that we're saying, an overarching comment is get out of your comfort zone, but still, you know, don't be too uncomfortable that you don't look natural anymore. Because Maria alluded to being authentic, I think, and that's truly important in networking. I just wanted to add something about introducing yourself into the elevator pitch. I tend to recommend to keep it as simple as possible. You never know who you're going to meet or have to introduce yourself, and so you have two situations. One where you've just introduced yourself and that person will want to introduce you. So if they didn't catch the essence, the core of how to do so, because it was too complicated, then they'll mess it up or they won't do it. So if you keep your introductions very simple, it may very well help. The other thing is people don't necessarily fully understand the technicalities. Again, depending if you're at a lawyer's event, you can go a bit deeper in the type of law you practice, but usually, don't go too deep, and people will want to make associations to what they know. So as you're introducing yourself, validate. Try to ask questions to see what they understand out of what you're doing when you have that opportunity to describe what you do in life. So tips at the event, very tricky, but when you're meeting a lot of people, it's remembering people's names. I tend to forget often, and the trick that I do is when I meet people in a circle, or you're introducing yourself at a table, repeat their name. So hi, I'm Johan. Hi, Mara. Pleased to meet you, Mara. And I'm repeating it 2-3 times so that it could give me a chance for it to sink in. Or Maria at Hogart Kane, and it's going to sink in at some point. So have those techniques to try and remember people's names. Know the roles of the attendees. So obviously at events, most of our members or attendees, but you have sponsors, you have guests of honors, you have the organizers, you have the organizing committee. It's good that you try to infiltrate and know who's doing what. It reassures you and gives you a bit more comfort. We talked about preparing, obviously, before the event. I think that gives you also a lot of confidence. Remember that it takes 5 touch points to convert a new person into a lead or a contact, or even more so into a client. So that research and that preparation and all the information that you're accumulating before and at the event becomes crucial for follow-ups. We'll talk about that. Pay attention to people's attitudes and nonverbal. This is key, because you're going to be drawn to people that have a positive attitude. You're going to be drawn to people that are smiling, that have energy, and to be drawn to you as well. So, the old trick to smile in front of a mirror before going to an event, I know it sounds cheesy and no one will do it, but try to do so. Get yourself into the mindset.
Sorry, Johan, what is that trick?
Well, just going in front of a mirror and smiling to yourself, because you get a reflection of someone who's positive. But no one will do it. But I think it's just a matter of creating that positive vibe, that positive attitude. And if ever you find yourself in a situation where everything's gone wrong that day, you're not going to be at your best, maybe consider not networking. It might be shooting yourself in the foot. So putting yourself out there is also a matter of arriving early to see how things evolve at a networking event. Staying late, sometimes the best conversations or the most open conversations happen when it calms down. So that might be a good time to network. You always have the trick of introducing yourself while waiting in line to go at the bar or at the buffet table. That's a known trick, and people can't go anywhere, so they're stuck with you, and you can introduce themselves.
Isn't the trick or a strategy to get is counterintuitive? It's to get in the longest line, not the shortest line, so that way you have an opportunity to meet the people in front of you and behind you.
Yeah. Hopefully you're not too hungry, but yeah. Another trick that I've also provided to some was going to people who are alone. And, you have some that will be on their cell phone, and, you can tell whether it's important or not important. And the people that have their cell phones on and just checking, browsing the messages, they're craving for someone to walk up to them and introduce themselves, because they know they shouldn't be on their phone and should be networking. So, that's a good trick to introduce yourself to people, even and get out of your comfort zone.
Maybe that's a good segue to conversation starters. So you see that person by themselves, and maybe Maura, you can give us your thoughts on the best way to approach someone and strike up a conversation.
Well, yes. First, let Johan just. I think Johan has more information to share. Is that correct?
No, go ahead. We.
No, I think you had some cool stuff to tell us.
Yeah, I'm conscious of
I'm mindful.
time, so,
We've got about 20 minutes. We got about 20 minutes left.
Okay. Well, maybe a little bit about some practical tips. Always say don't stay on the cell phone. Because others, people will not approach you unless they really want to start a conversation with you. Don't talk about business first. Try to get empathy, trust. Empathy. Networking is all about trust, empathy, relationships. And I mean, if you start straight away, listen, I'm Maura Haggard-Kane. I'm from Tosini Freire. My firm is the best in the world. But that doesn't work. I mean, it really doesn't work. You have to find common ground on a personal level. So look at the person, do a lot of observation. Observation is key in an event. And I use a lot in women event. Listen, I have to go during the coffee break. I'm going to the pharmacy, or I'm going to a shop nearby here. I have to catch a quick thing for my son or for my mom or whatever. And you couldn't believe it, how many women have to do the same thing. So this is also something that really works for women, and I think it will work for men too in networking events. I think you have to be humble and don't underestimate anybody. I have an excellent story on that. If we have time, I'll tell you about it. There always can be a connection. I think, and with regards to like conversation starters, I think depending on the event, you can talk about the industry, if it changed, if it didn't change. Where you see the industry heading, if these if you have more opportunities for the firm, what is your firm, what is the person doing you in the company? There's so many pitches you can you can do what, how do they see globalization? How did the person get where they are? How did you get where you are? I think that, talking pitches are, enormous. I mean, it all will depend on what event you are and who you're talking to. I don't know if you would like me to talk about tips for reconnecting. I think reconnecting is something that is very important, and it all will depend on the conversation you had with the person at the event. So I think reconnecting is absolutely and you always have to try to remember one specific point of the conversation they had with the person at the event to reconnect. So I would say don't forget, or I hope your dog gets better. I hope your son passes the exam. I hope this is always a good way to reconnect. Here, I'm sending you the article I promised, or here's the introduction to the partner I mentioned. There's so many ways to reconnect. I think that always will depend on the form or the conversation you held with the person. Or here's the name of the hotel I mentioned in Thailand, or it's reconnecting is very easy. Always have a follow-up homework to do, and you can reconnect.
Yeah, and that brings us to sort of maintaining the momentum, right? And what do
Yeah.
you do once you leave the event? So Alex, I don't know if you have anything you want to add on either the breaking the ice and making those connections at the event, or if you want to go straight to what do you do next?
Yeah, when you're at the event, you're going to look for signs of definite next steps, right? So, did they show any type of legal interest at all, or industry related interest, or is it just social? Is there a social interest where there's an opportunity to follow up, related to sports or what have you? So after the event, my preference, if I make a really strong connection, is to call someone. It's not to email them, because I feel I'm more likely to get a follow-up meeting, whether that be a coffee, lunch, dinner, ball game, if I ask them on the phone. So my preference is, if I have a very strong connection with someone at a networking event, then I'll call them. If not, then what I normally do is email. And then depending on the connection, how strong of the connection also depends on whether I'm just trying to get a cup of coffee with them, or the stronger the connection, then a dinner or maybe some type of sporting event is what I try to do.
I can also suggest for those who are comfortable with social media, LinkedIn, reaching out on LinkedIn and connecting. And part of the tricks that I wanted to share at the event is, if you're comfortable, take pictures of the event for an to eventually post something on the event that you've attended. So more and more, those social networks like personal stories. It's not, hey, I've attended the American Bar Association event. That doesn't really speak, but hey, I've just bumped into Alex at the American Bar Association event, and you're tagging Alex, and you have a picture with him, or you provide a quote on the conference that you just heard, or the speaker, or find ways to put yourself out there. And you know what, people will interact with your posts and connect with you if the organization doesn't have, or the events do not have an official post already done. So I tend to take a picture, retract, do my small little post, and by the time the event ends, I already have like several people that have connected, and have an opportunity to connect with them if I haven't done so because of the social media post. The one thing also with regards to following up that I think is important to add is remember what is the information that you received at the event, and try to build on that. But don't try to force it. It needs to be also natural in a way that is adapted to the person that you've met. The idea of being at an event is not to have a very deep conversation right then and there. It's to create that opportunity for a follow-up.
Johan, let me just add to your comment on social media. I think social media is something today that is very good for networking, but is also something that we have to be very careful about. For example, yesterday, I'm just going to give a personal example. My son asked for a visa, student visa for the US for an internship. And now the US government asks, people to give their social media addresses. So you have to give your Twitter address, your Facebook address, your Instagram address, all your addresses. So they go to the type of information you publish in your social media. So I see a lot of social media, and this first of all, I want all of you to know about this so you can take it back home and tell your kids. And second, because I think some people post in social media opinions and certain things that maybe should not be posted. They hear something in an event, and I think we have to be very careful on what we post on social media, and especially opinions, political opinions, etc. And this is something that has to be, I don't know if a firm policy or what type of thing it is, but I think it's. I just want to give this alert, because people sometimes think that social media is something that sits there with his friends or her friends, and it's really spread out all over the place in 1 second. So something to be very careful about what you post in social media and your comments.
I think that's great. I don't know if any of you had other things to add on social media or what to do after. One of the questions that had come up is, what happens if you didn't meet the person you had expected to meet at the event, or it otherwise wasn't a successful networking event for you? Then what?
Oh, I would run a cold email or something. Oh, dear Nancy, I participated in the event. I know you were there. I wanted to have an opportunity to talk to you. Unfortunately, that was not possible. Can we have a coffee? Can we have a call? Can we, and see what happens? I think most of the time you are successful, but not all the time. But I think that's a cold call and a way to connect.
Yeah, I agree. It's an opportunity to connect.
Yeah.
I often describe my role in the marketing team as opening doors or opening up opportunities. So we're always trying to find reasons for lawyers and partners to connect, whichever the reason. If it's appropriate, then seize it. Then someone being absent at an event, well, that's a good reason to connect and say, hey, I was looking for you. I thought about you. I was looking forward to meeting you. Unfortunately, so let's catch up.
Yeah,
I wanted to come back and I'm Luis Peirano. I'm in the Dominican Republic and been doing client development for years, and just want to kind of come back to the basics to point out that client development is not about business and saying how great of a lawyer you are. I think it's an issue about establishing personal relationship and the other person having the perception that should they entrust you a matter, you will take care of such matter diligently, like it would be them. It's not that you're the best lawyer, it's that you are the most responsible lawyer that they can find, because when somebody picks the phone to call somebody somewhere else, they wanted to make sure that tomorrow is a holiday, you will take care of it. Tomorrow, even it's Christmas Day or whatever, or even Thanksgiving, you will take care of it. And I want to join the comment on the cautious of social media. the use of social media has a different context in every jurisdiction, and how it's used and perceived is not a universal concept. And to me, social media is probably something good for the firms to use it locally, and probably same thing on the personal level. Don't get confused that clients look into social media to pick the firm, except for looking into LinkedIn to see things about the firm. But everything is about what is in the website and other things. So careful with social media.
Thank you. That's a great tip. And of course, we invite anybody else who wants to speak or share something to either go off mute or put it in the chat. It definitely makes for a more interesting session when we can hear from all of you as well. I know we've got about 7 minutes left, and we were hoping to get to sort of your do's and don'ts before we go. So maybe we'll do this sort of rapid fire. If you could each sort of leave us with 1 or 2 do's or don'ts to take away as practical tips. Alex?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. I would say that the most important thing is that be yourself. You have to be authentic, but where you maybe shouldn't be yourself, the one exception I'd say is you have to push yourself to go meet other people. It's easy, sometimes it's easier to be on your iPhone or just say, oh, it takes too much effort, right, to go introduce myself to someone and work through a conversation and stuff. But that's the reason you're there. And you're there to network, to expand your network. And as my niece who just graduated from business school said, the size of your network is the size of your net worth. So anyway, but that's the one thing where I'd say get out of your comfort zone, is push yourself to go meet people. But otherwise, just be yourself, but also be informed, be knowledgeable about what's going on in your industry, and then be knowledgeable about what your firm has to offer as a whole, even if it's not the legal work you do.
Thank you. Laura?
Well, my tips and do's and don'ts maybe is sponsor and empower younger attendees. I think that's very important because you have to build the future, and I think they'll always be grateful. I think you have to give. Don't talk about politics. That's really important in a networking event. Don't talk about politics. I always like to check the list of attendees at the reception. So that's maybe a more practical tip. The sitting of the tables, if you want to target somebody, sit at the tables. But I think basically in conclusion, networking is about relationships, like Luis said. I think it's more about being genuine and trust people and relationships. If you give, you receive, and I think that's the basic of relationships, of networking. The more you give, the more you receive. That's my rule.
Thank you. Johan?
Well, I would start by saying, stay attentive to your nonverbal and social cues, as we call them. Know when to ask and how to ask open questions. Don't leave room for yes and no answers. Be very curious, authentic about other people, and listen. Really, we've talked a lot about introducing yourself, talking about your firm, but ultimately 80%, I don't know if I'm getting the ratio right, but 80% should be about listening, asking questions and listening and taking in the information. When I'm talking about social cues, we, in preparation of this panel, I was giving the trick, when you go into a networking event, look at people's feet when they're all in a circle, and usually you'll get to enter that circle of conversation if people's feet are at an outward angle. It means that they're open for you, and even their body language. If they're open for you to come in to the conversation, they'll be a bit more leaning towards you. It's not proper, like when you see two people working and their feet and their bodies are like right in front of each other. Don't try and interrupt them. That's a very practical tip. Try it next time, and you'll see if you can infiltrate a conversation this way. I'll end it also by just mentioning what there was an old survey that they've done on what people really enjoy about others when they're networking, and the top traits of personalities. The first one, which I've just mentioned, is listening. People like to talk, and they like being listened to. So someone that is a listening ear helps. Second trait was smiling. Be always positive. Kindness and being engaging. So opening up the conversation and really showing empathy. Only on the 8th position comes the sense of humor. So be careful if you're trying to crack too many jokes out there. People enjoy that, but it's not what you need to be looking out for at the top of.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time this morning and the tips that you've all shared with us. Beth, I'm just taking a look in the chat to see if there are any questions before we go, but I don't see any.
Yep, and I think we've pretty much covered everything. So
yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. We hope you enjoyed the session, and I wish you all a good rest of your day.